Of course, Councilor Crowe will not be here today. He is having a good time in London. Last I talked to him 2 days ago, having a great time. And I haven't heard from Raven, but I'm sure she'll be here. So Matthew, you're going to be in charge of projects today.
Yes, sir.
And Matthew is getting ready to head out to Africa Saturday morning.
Got all my shots.
Got all your shots, got your passport, got your visa.
Got everything,
You're taking
man.
4 or 5 suits now, right?
I'm taking at least 2.
Oh man, come on.
You
Come
got
on,
to
you
take them
won't
when
need
you come. You got to take some pills when you come
That's
back
right.
too. They're gonna expose us. Don't expose us all the stuff you're gonna get.
That's right.
You'll have overpaid.
You'll have a great time.
Oh yeah.
And I appreciate you representing
It'll be
us.
very
It's
educational.
an honor and a privilege to represent our city and all the things that we do in Tuscaloosa in a different country.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. 10 days,
12 days.
12 days.
Yes, sir.
That's wonderful.
Oh, yeah.
That'll be quite a trip.
Quite a trip, man.
Okay, is there a motion that we approve the minutes?
Second.
The motion, second, all those say aye.
Aye.
Minutes approved. Okay, Mr. Mills, you're up first today.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council.
Good afternoon.
I have one tonight. It's Black Warrior LLC, DBA Grandstand Appliance for Lounge Retail Liquor. However, OCA has some concerns that we need to address first before we can proceed.
This, we would ask that we table this until June the 6th. If you will look down towards the bottom of your agenda, you'll notice that you are setting a public hearing for the conditional use of this property as a bar/tavern. We can't approve a lounge liquor license yet at that location until a conditional use has been approved. This would be like approving a lounge license and a spot that wasn't legally allowed to have a lounge zoned. So those will need to be heard in the same meeting or the conditional use heard first.
So we're tabling for how long?
Until June the 6th, which is when the, hold on a second, make sure I have that date right. June the 6th, that's when the public hearing on the conditional use would be.
And which one of these is Black Warrior?
It's the old Will Hagen's.
This is grandstand.
Grandstand. DBA,
Today it's the Grandstand. It's now, it was Will Hagen's, it's now Grandstand. It's applying to be Black Warrior.
no, sir. It's Black Warrior Burgers LLC, DBA Grandstand.
And right now, they've got a restaurant license.
Yes, sir. That's correct.
Right.
So we want the table for how long, Mr. Holmes?
Until June 6th, which would be 2 weeks.
2 weeks?
You may recall they came, I believe they asked for a special condition to be a gastropub. That was denied. They have the ability to ask to be a lounge, and so they're coming back to ask to be the lounge.
But this location is currently not zoned to permit a lounge?
No location is zoned to permit a lounge at this point without a special condition. A bar, lounge, tavern is always a special condition now. We changed that a year-ish ago.
Okay. Is that all you have?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
What about the, over in Parkview in my district, the one that wanted to expand a
Drill City Brewing.
patio?
So they're approved for alcohol license. They want to use the porch area just for seated area. And so since they were already approved,
So I wanted to, huh?
since they were already approved for the alcohol licensing as the inside, they want to in a sense expand their licensed premises just to the outside part of it.
And where is that?
It's not only, but it's out on the outside of the building itself.
No, I don't mean where the patio, where is that approval in the process?
So what we did was on this one, we've approved a previous business like that in the past, in which this time we tried to do the same way, where allowing yourself and council president to actually just sign off on the letter and saying it's okay to allow them to expand out to.
But you and I talked about this in the hallway a week or two ago, right?
Yeah, and you said
And
you
I
want to
asked
discuss
them to
with
come to
council
council.
members, yes.
So,
You wanted to discuss with your council members, did not say for me to bring it forth, but you said you were going to talk with them. You were saying you were going to talk to them, not necessarily for me to bring it back for you.
okay, that's what you understood?
Yes, sir.
All right, so I would, and for the other council members, this is This is an expanded use of area on a bar in my district. They're a good district citizen. I got no problems with them. And in the past, as Anthony was saying, we have handled that with a letter from the district councilman urging, in fact, there's an example from you. I don't have any problem with that, but given the sensitivity of the bar situation, I had asked, and perhaps not clearly, I wanted that to come back so that the whole council got to see it and nod off on it. I don't object to it, I don't plan to oppose it, but given the sensitivity of what we've got going on with the bars, I wanted everybody to see that.
They've
and
already-
go, yes.
They've already been serving out back.
They're not supposed to, not in the new location, but if they have
Oh, in
been.
the old location.
In the old location, yeah, they were outside, yes, sir.
Yeah, that's right. They did have another location across the street. So again, good citizen, plan to support it, but given the sensitivity, I'd like us all to see that and nod on it in an action at the council level. Because we discovered, I think, whereas unbeknownst to me, I didn't realize that existing licensed bars can in fact expand their facilities without our approval. Is that correct?
No longer.
No longer,
We
right?
changed that, yes.
So I view this as an expansion of the serving crowd. Fully plan to support it, but I want the council to see it and have a chance to go yes or no.
Okay, I'll reach out to them, let them start that process with it.
All right, thank you.
That's kind of like we did Catch a Taste, wasn't it?
Yes, sir.
Just like, yeah.
Mr. Mills, will you go back to the grandstand?
Okay.
That's in my district. Can you kind of refresh what's happening here again?
Okay, so grandstand was previously approved for a restaurant, retail, liquor. They came back before council to get approved for a gastropub, which was denied. Now that they're saying that since it was denied for the business they want to apply for a lounge, retail, liquor license.
So, with the same specs of the building, no increase of size?
No change in just same specs. Yes, sir.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Okay,
The effect of the change would be to occupancy based upon the layout of a restaurant versus a lounge.
gotcha. Okay,
So, okay, will they be they can have more people?
Set up as a lounge, they would not be restricted to a restaurant occupancy, which is where we are now. And
So how much more would that be?
I don't know what it is now, but it goes up quite
do we
substantially.
have the number from the fire marshal?
Currently, it's $375,
So it would go up,
and they're a restaurant with an attached bar currently.
It wouldn't go up in the footprint, didn't change the layout, so.
okay.
Any more questions, Mr. Mills?
600.
Thank you, Tony. Appreciate it. Barry,
That's in
Virgil?
my district. I want to support what's in mine. That's right.
6 or 7 people.
Okay, we got two for you tonight. 3008 20th Street. This house, the owners have been notified. They're aware that if we tear it down, the cost will come back to them. They do not choose to fight this.
That's in my district, isn't it?
I believe so,
Yeah,
yes.
that's my district, yeah. I've seen that
20th
house.
Street.
There, would you say that again? I'm sorry.
They're not gonna fight it. It's, the owners, I've been watching this house for quite a while, and, there was people living in it.
Wow.
Yeah, and so I never saw the back of it. I couldn't see the back of it from the road. But then the owners were killed.
Everybody's got it back.
So about a week after that happened, I went and just walked around, and lo and behold, the whole backside of the house had fallen in. So
You know, I wish there was something we could do to help people or get them in the frame of mind when they see that their homes are deteriorating, to try to seek some type of help, restorative help if they can't afford it, or some means where there's great opportunities to help them.
What's the address on that house?
3008 20th Street. This person's niece said she'd been in the house and didn't even realize the whole backside of the house had fell in.
I can believe it.
I'm like,
There
I
might have
don't know
been so
how,
much
but-
stuff in the house, you never know.
Yeah, so we're hoping to get, we're trying to get some kind of wording so we can move forward on condemning some of these houses with people living in them, because we've got several in a couple of the districts that have people living in it that really need to be condemned.
They're unsafe.
They're very unsafe, yes. I'm afraid, I'm literally afraid that they could possibly, fall in around them. We've talked to the people, but they don't have any help, they don't have anywhere to go. That's the issue we're up against.
You're right. You're exactly right.
That all you?
That's all on that one. We got one more.
Okay.
All right, this is 3262 Taylor Circle. We got a trailer out there and a couple of accessory buildings. They are not gonna contest this either. They are aware that if it's condemned and, that the cost will be back to them. That's in Mr. Wilson's district
It's
as
a
well.
long trailer. I wonder how much land is that trailer sitting on?
Maybe 3/4 of an acre, half acre, I'm not sure. It's a nice lot, actually.
I believe it.
Very level.
Mm-hmm. Nice greenery.
Oh, that's the longest trailer I've ever heard of. Okay.
That's it.
Questions, Virgil?
That's all we got.
Thank you. Thank Barry.
Thank you.
Okay. Emily.
Good afternoon, council. We have a
Good afternoon.
conditional use for Rhythm and Brews. So this is for the expansion of their premises into the adjacent space at 2310 4th Street, which is Civil Axe throwing today. Here's an aerial view of that. And this is in Timerson Square, just a reminder. So this is their proposed floor plan, the expansion, so you can see the doors that are gonna be added to allow further access. This is specifically focused upon allowing for a better bathroom area for their patrons. So this is that proposed bathroom area. It's gonna expand significantly from what was built in, I believe, the 90s is what they told me. It's very outdated with how it is today, so they wanna offer something that's just a little bit nicer to their patrons. And then this is the proposed area of expansion that's just gonna be available with some pool tables. So
Can you back that up
again,
one,
oh,
please?
yes, sir. So their occupancy is going to increase with this expansion from, it's currently 240 today. It's gonna increase to 265 per fire.
So an increase of 25 people.
Correct.
I've had the opportunity to meet with them concerning this property and to see the specs of what the new rendering would look like. And as I've told them, one thing that we want to make sure that safety is a priority and that we monitor the occupancy, and they are willing to do that. So I really want to go on record of saying I really want us to think about supporting this project.
So the pool tables are being removed and the restrooms will?
So the grade area on the right-hand side, that is the current space as it sits today. And everything that's in the white is the new area. So that's where Civil Axe throwing is right now. So the pool table is gonna be a brand new area.
So they're just cutting it out.
And the bathrooms in the rear are also new. So they're just kind of reworking things. But everything, again, in the white, that is expanding into Civil Axe. Where that wall is with the two doors, and to the right, that's the current area.
And see, the bathrooms in that place will be a more secure place for those persons who need to go to the restrooms. Currently, it is not as secure as it will be once they make these necessary corrections or additions.
Is the occupancy increase required by code because of the expansion, or could? Because do they have, my concern is this, I know it'll be a great project. We have been adamant about not increasing occupancy in areas where we've had crime and, incidents of extreme violence. And I just, you know, PD's been very clear. I've been extremely supportive of PD in that. So I'd just be interested to know, do we have to increase the occupancy to do this? Are we required by our own ordinance?
Yeah, so this is the design occupant level that was submitted by the design professional. This is sort of like the trade-off that happens when you expand, you know. It's the overall, it's measured by the overall footprint of the building. So, you know, the code does give the HJ the ability to decrease occupant loads at times, you know, to, a lot of times people do that for bathroom fixture counts and things like that, but they cannot decrease to try to circumvent any provisions in the code that relate to life safety, if that answers your question. So the overall question is, do we have to increase? Based on what's approved, we would, but the AJ does have an exception in the code that says, okay, it can stay marked as 240 if that's what we really want to do. So it's kind of a, but what do you want to do in the next case? And one concern I had right here was future tenancy. Like if we did have a fixed occupant load here of 240 and you had a future tenant come in, say that wanted to put like an event space there for an example, and they wanted to use just concentrated assembly, their occupant load would naturally go up just based on the type of use. So, you know, I don't know how we would handle that in the future if someone came there with a different business model and their load went up just for the sheer fact of what they're doing, not
So
necessarily
what would
relate
be-
to alcohol.
What would be required, what would be required if somebody, if this was sold, they'd obviously have to get a transfer of any alcohol license, and I assume it'd be a different type of license if it were an event space. How about any other planning requirements that would make this have to come back to the council?
Not, so the conditional use process is specifically for bars, taverns, gastropubs. It wouldn't be for an event space. So that wouldn't be something that would have to come back. I know that we had discussed with a previous application that came through a conditional use application about whether council would want to put a limitation, like council putting that limitation on the number of occupants and saying, if we approve this conditional use, we're gonna say that it can't be above 240. So if someone else came in, that conditional use would go away and so would that condition of the occupancy. That was, I mean, we talked about that, but that was never something that ended up actually moving forward to council.
Well, we don't have to approve an alcohol license for any new use. It's completely our choice.
Yes, sir. You actually do.
I do.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Excuse me.
But
Because
you're
this
a
right
party
here is-
spoiler?
That's right. This is actually a change of use, change of space, additional use. So the license was approved for the old location.
No, I'm not talking about for what's before us now.
Right.
I'm talking about in regard to the question that if we decide, okay, we understand what they want, and we'll approve it if they'll, I believe you said you could maintain the marked capacity of 240, didn't you? But the issue was what happens down the road if it sells, changes it. We don't have to approve that.
You wouldn't have to approve that. I think it's just, the main question is coming
Well,
in of,
Get the party spoiler. You understand what I'm saying? I'm not talking about with regard to what's before us now.
Okay, so
Okay,
if
so
I'm understanding your question right, if the new person comes in with the added occupancy level and they're applying based off the added occupancy, you're approving based off the new specs of occupancy level coming from that way. Not this right here, but if you came in to me and Mr. Fell had this location and he turned around and he sold it, you purchased it with a lounge based off the added space, then you would have to buy your liquor license based off the added increase.
But the council doesn't have to approve that liquor
But
license.
you're gonna be
think-
denying the whole
I
liquor
think
license
some of the
itself.
confusion is terminology. You're saying have to is in doesn't have a choice. It would have to come before council,
Yeah,
but
it
you
have
could
to
vote
come
no.
before
I think that may be some of it.
Yeah, okay, I see what you're, no, it's like any change of ownership or change of usage comes to us and we can say yes or no.
right.
Mm-hmm.
So
Well,
it
it
says,
seems to me we want to decide whether we want to do 240 or 265. Is that-
Well, I'm assuming the mayor's comment, again, is kind of connected to what I was talking about with given the sensitivity of not only occupancy, but in this particular case, the volatility of that general area, I'm assuming you brought that up to make that potentially more palatable to those of us that have concerns about that.
Well, I know that Chief Blankley, who's out of town today, couldn't be here. Him and I have discussed this, and, you know, he feels very strongly that we're at a difficult point right now because of, as you know, we're 30-plus officers short. We have a lot of demands in our entertainment areas that are, quite frankly, taking away from other parts of our city. We want to reduce any long-term liability of that now and into the future. If we expand the occupancy on this, then, you know, 25, we're increasing, then, you know, it reverses what we've been trying to do for the last several months. Again, you know, the project has merit, and certainly you want nice, clean facilities. It would, you know, one thing, it would make this permanently a bar. I mean, there's no chance, and I don't know if that other space could be something else. It may can only be a bathroom. It may only be big enough to only do something
It could be an
like
axe
that.
throwing.
It could be an axe throwing place, which we know the market probably didn't, maybe, I don't know, maybe didn't support. But I know that when the police chief comes to me with that type of conviction, and that's the way he feels, I'm going to certainly support him in that, because you see every day when we send you these significant events what we're up against. And in many of our own what I call entertainment areas, Timerson Strip. And this would be counter to the things we've been doing, you know, and been talking about. So, you know, one way I thought maybe we could soften it was to not increase the occupancy. So you're keeping the status quo with better facilities, but that may not be, again, I'm saying this, we haven't heard from the petitioner, that may be something that's not doable. So,
Chief Clark?
I'm just gonna echo what the mayor said. He said exactly what I was here to say. When we're dealing with the entertainment districts, the larger the venue, the more apt we are to have those problems. Here, you're taking away a venue that would be operating maybe 60 or 65 people another time of the day. So yeah, it's less people overall, but it's different use. It's different times of the day. It's a non-alcohol use for the most part. You're just increasing the size to another mega board. So just being able, from our perspective, as a public safety perspective in the area in which it's in, we can't support for what we do and what we look at, we can support these opportunities.
So I got a question.
Yes, sir.
Per the fire marshal's comments based on the size of the building, volume, space. If that space was already used, like if this is my volume, and I only use 1/4 of this building, and if I open it up all the way, does that not, will it not increase? And I understand totally what you're saying, Mr. Mayor. Does not it increase my space that I have to be used? And if so, how do I deal with that on a level where it would not seem to be hindering the business of those who have now expanded their building and have the space to do so?
I wasn't following.
So I guess what I'm saying is that previous space that they had was
It's eligible to have 265, in there due 265. How can we legally or do this and not hinder the progress of the bar? If the bar is due 265 and we want to cut it because of safety measures, I mean, if the bars do that, are they legally eligible to do it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that discussion can can be had with the owner.
Thank you, sir.
And
Thank you.
special consideration can be
Gotcha.
put in place for this particular occupancy to cover that and address that. And if they're good with it, and we're good with it,
Right.
we all sign off on it and just move on. I just want to be careful with creating exceptions that create confusion down the road, so people don't want to come in and try to manipulate occupancy loads just to circumvent our rules that we have in place. So
Right.
I just wanted to be careful about that.
Yeah,
have a question.
That makes sense.
Makes sense.
So the renovations are necessary, it seems like, but was, the increase in occupancy, was that a major concern or request from the petitioner? I know it's just 25 people, but I'm just trying to follow their thoughts.
So when I spoke with the design professional, he had made it seem to me that the bathrooms were the most important thing. It wasn't an increase in occupant load.
Okay.
So that's the vibe that I got from the design professional.
Okay.
And I understand in terms of 25 people doesn't sound like a lot. And again, Chief Clark, correct me if I'm wrong,
Yes.
but we have an area that PD already believes is too intense on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights and creates a problem. Now where you have a daytime use, now that 25 is gonna become a nighttime use.
Gotcha.
So you just added that additional burden. And again, we already have an area that right now we have flagged, we're putting a lot of resources in along with the strip. And one of the things you always communicate to me is you want more TPD resources in your districts.
I don't have any
So
Friday. and Saturday.
you would like some. You would like,
Yeah, just one policeman would be nice on the east side of town.
And right now with 30 vacancies,
And how many, 15 in the academy or something like that?
You do. You have all of that.
38.
Yeah, 'cause they ain't on the west side.
They ain't on the west side. You got to have it.
I saw 10 last night.
Well, there's 27 people
Yeah,
here
right.
right now, I think, 27 if I counted right. That doesn't seem like a crowd unless Kip asks them to leave and they won't, you know? I mean, if they don't do what you say, then 27 people's a lot of folks, Chief.
Chief Clark?
That area is already traffic-wise for the use time with the number of licensed establishments that are in that area, the number of people. Those crowds, yeah, there's some coming and going, but
Yeah.
it is a one-time flush in, flush out. You have high congestive traffic and everything else like that. And then plus just the nature of everybody leaving the bar at the same time. 25 people does generally make a difference. I mean, if we keep expanding those areas out that are so concentrated now in Timerson and the strip area, and they keep expanding, then eventually we're just gonna need a police department just in of itself to handle those areas.
And I'm very serious. I get calls, Mayor, and you know it, that we don't have any police officers on the weekends on the east side of town. Correct me if I'm wrong.
At nighttime, it can get kind of
Yeah.
skimpy because.
The phone calls I get is,
again, and I know, just so the public understands, what we're up against is not only just, trying to identify the best officers possible to work in today's environment is difficult,
That's true.
but our competition in Northport and the county use the fact that they don't have any entertainment districts where officers are required to do mandatory overtime from 10 to 2 or 10 to 3 on Friday, Saturday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday nights. They use that against us because today's police officers are more apt to want more time off and less overtime. And the more issues we create ourselves, the more difficult it is for Chief Blankley and Chief Clark and Chief Sanders and Chief Rice to go out and recruit and us retain those police officers. And we just, we feel strongly that you are the policy-making body of the council. We don't have a vote in this. But we want you to be aware of the impacts of this, and we certainly would prefer not to add more to an area that already is creating some issues just because of the number of bars, number of alcohol establishments in that particular geographical zone.
We've got.
That's in my district.
Yeah, we've got a couple executive sessions, items, and we need to move on. This will be a public hearing
That's
tonight.
Tommy,
Well, yes, sir, if you'll be real brief, because we got a public hearing tonight for you to speak.
I'm one of the owners of Timerson Square,
Yeah.
soccer table, hall table.
Yeah, Roger, will you come up, speak up here at the mic?
I can, yeah. This all started a few months ago where Hall Taylor was trying to purchase a building permit because the Axtron facility is struggling and all their facilities are struggling. So I think that's sort of a fad that's gone away. So they wanted to release it back to us as landlords. Rhythm and Brews, which is also a landlord and the owner of Rhythm and Brews, which is Bradley White and Jeremy White here.
Yeah.
They said, well, we'll just take it because our restroom facilities are in bad need. Said, okay, well, as landlords, if y'all will do that, we will sprinkle the building. Nobody's mentioned that here today. This is all wood structure, and I promise you, if it started a fire there today, fire department, I probably can't put it out because it's all lighted pipe. So all these spaces that we've been renovating them and improving them, we have put the sprinklers in, which we're gonna do these two facilities here, Rhythm and Brews and the Axtron facility, whenever this is approved. Now, we've never asked for an increase in occupancy. I don't know where it came from. So if that's a big deal, but we really need a permit where we can get this thing built and moved on for 2 months.
That's right.
In a normal situation, 2 months ago, this thing would have been permitted, we would have had them in it by now. And it just keeps getting pushed off.
I know we need to move for sake, Mr. Hall, I'm understanding you correctly and the Whites as well. The 240,
It's just fine. We've never asked for anything new. That came about in the design because of the increase in space and the fact that we're sprinkling the building.
I'm not comfortable with that.
Yeah.
So if that's what it takes, then let's get it done.
So
and
we
move
don't have a
on.
problem with 240?
Absolutely, we'll be
Okay.
fine with that.
We're fine.
We'll be fine with
So
it.
can we
We've
move
been there
on
for
with this?
22 years at that number, so we're,
Yeah.
hopefully we're there for another 20. I
Where
think.
did that come from?
it's probably just because.
The increase.
The updated drawings and added facility, I mean, we, our women's and restroom areas right now, we have 3 units. And, you know, those things get backed up, and we're looking for a better customer experience is what
Yeah.
we're looking for, so.
We've
I don't
actually,
think you'll have a problem.
and we actually got a temporary facility sitting out in the backyard for the women to go to. That's how bad it is.
Roger, how long have you, I didn't know you, how long have you owned that?
Gosh, I don't know, 8 or 10 years, pretty good while.
Good.
Yes, sir.
But the sprinkler systems and the fire alarm and panic devices on every one of those exits right there, those are all new additions also. That's gonna go right along with this. So we wanna go ahead and do that, mainly because part owners in the property too.
So would it be okay for us to go ahead on and keep it at the 240 and move along?
Yeah.
And
Can we
I'm
do that?
comfortable with
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, you comfortable with that?
Yeah, as long, we'll probably, I don't know what it, I know you hate when we say, what it will take legally, but I mean.
If I'm reading the room correctly, I'll have my office prepare a substitute tonight that
Thank you.
states 240 is the occupancy. And also, just FYI, the alcohol license sort of component of this will be in front of y'all on the 6th.
Thank you, Mr. Holmes.
On the 6th?
6, June
2
6th.
weeks from tonight.
And just to make certain I'm clear, any change of ownership in the future would require that license to come back.
Either a transfer of ownership if someone was continuing the use of a bar tavern, if somebody wanted to reopen as a restaurant event center, they'd have to come back and make an application for a new alcohol license.
That's correct.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, Roger.
Thank you.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you, Mr. Taylor.
All right, Mathematics.
We're long. I'll pass.
That's okay. We,
No, I'm good.
we've only got 3 committee meetings, that's okay.
Jump to agenda brief.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Holmes. Thank you, Scott. Roger.
Good afternoon. Y'all probably already heard from me more than you wanted to today, so I will be as brief as I can. I'm about midway down on page 2, where on page 15 you'll be supporting adding additional projects to the MPO transportation plan. This came to projects last week. On page 16, you'll be authorizing various contracts necessary to implement an enhanced security notification service. That's a total not to exceed $65,000. On page 17, you'll be authorizing the mayor to enter into professional services contract with Unity Fiber. This is a total for 36 months at $16,500 per year and came to projects last week. On page 18, you'll be authorizing a minor public works contract with Straight Line Fence LLC. That is not to exceed $2,611, and that came from projects last week. On page 19, you'll be authorizing a minor public works contract with American Fence Company. That is a not to exceed $25,150, and again, came in projects last week. On page 20, you'll be authorizing a minor public works contract with Budget Blinds. That is a total of $5,520, which also is in projects on the 16th. On page 21, you'll be authorizing amendment number 1 to the minor public works contract with Cone Cranes. That amended contract amount is $37,972.60, and again came from projects last week. On pages 22 and 23, you'll be tentatively awarding a public works contract for water main relocation. This is for an ALDOT project on US 11 over Norfolk Southern Railway. That is a total of $116,350.01. That was discussed in projects last week. On page 24, you'll be authorizing execution of a memorandum of understanding between internal offices of the city of Tuscaloosa as a partnership to provide funds and assist with activities, projects that will prevent, prepare, and respond to the spread of COVID-19 and other infectious diseases. That came from CD committee last week. On page 25, you'll be acknowledging the contents of the 2022 Municipal Water Pollution Prevention Report to the Alabama Department of Environmental Management. You may recall that was presented to you last week in pre-council. On page 26, you'll be authorizing the mayor to execute utility easements with Alabama Power Company regarding the Western Riverwalk project. That was discussed in projects last week. On page 27, you'll be authorizing a contract with the American Registry for Internet Numbers Limited. That was again in projects last week. On page 28, you'll be authorizing the municipal court administrator to execute agreements, amendments, permissions, and related documents for no-cost services provided at the city of Tuscaloosa related to the general operation of the Tuscaloosa Municipal Court. That came out of admin last week. On page 29, you will be authorizing the Office of Community and Neighborhood Services to advertise the City of Tuscaloosa's Consolidated Annual Performance and Evaluation Report for program year 2022. That came from CD committee last week. On page 30, you'll be authorizing amendment number 10 to the fiscal year 2023 General Fund Reserve Future Improvements Fund budget. That came from Finance Committee last week. And I think we've referenced all of these at some point previously today, but on page 31, you'll be setting June 6th as the date for a hearing to consider approval of conditional use for Black Warrior Burgers LLC, that's DBA Grandstand, as a bar or tavern. On page 32, you'll be setting June 6th as a date for a hearing to consider approval of conditional use for Racked Up DBA Crew Lounge, and this is at 6571 Highway 69 South, Suite A, as a bar tavern. And on pages 33 and 34, you'll be setting June 13th as the date for a hearing to consider approval of North Village Subdivision, a planned unit development. Any questions for me?
Questions for Scott?
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. All right, we've got projects 2:30, Finance 3:15, Public Safety at 4, the council meeting first at 6. Airport Advisory Committee meets tomorrow at 3. And again, no council or committee meetings next Tuesday, so we'll be away for 2 weeks. I got 3 little housekeeping notes for the council. I want to congratulate Councilor Lanier on your town hall meeting.
You did a great job.
I was really pleased you took me back about 26 years ago with my first town hall, and I felt coming in. I can remember how that first meeting was. We did a great job. Staff did a great job. Nice turnout. I saw someone yesterday who said, "I saw you catch this town hall meeting, and it was really great, and you had it so well organized that everybody's concerns was written down, and I'm sure probably already been addressed by now."
Definitely.
But really good job.
Appreciate it. Give it up for the staff. They made me look great. It was them, not me, so thanks to all the staff and, President Tyner for coming out.
Yes,
That
sir.
was huge, that's the big part.
I was trying to get them and I was
We
driving.
did.
Yeah, it was nice.
We did.
He's not on my way.
I wanted to support you.
Also, just a quick reminder, if you do want to support the Kenneth Kroom Foundation, that ball banquet, all is coming up, $400 a ticket. We can't use district funds for that, but you can use your campaign funds or your personal funds, and the deadline is coming up quick on that, so if anybody would like to purchase a seat or two or whatever, or not, but just kind of let them know as soon as possible. And also, if council will get with me on resurfacing, I was gonna respond, but I don't know if y'all have had this problem. I know Mr. Busby said he has some. As soon as I get her email, sometimes it just vanishes out of my phone. And
You
before,
can open it, but when you close it, it's not
yeah,
there.
I've had
Right.
that.
and it's just not there. I don't know what's going on, but I had some suggestions, but I don't think there are any worries about resurfacing. That is not a final list.
I found that out.
And so,
I
yes.
like it, I
After
like
the
it.
fact, right?
Right on.
Everybody add something to it.
But I
Oh,
did,
yeah, let's add
but I
on.
also had some suggestions.
Keep that in-house.
If you will get with me, because we can do things like from this point to that point, instead of me saying, I want all Hillsdale, if you like Brook Hill Road to 10th Street, and things like that. But anyway, I'm glad to help in any way, and I feel like I kind of fell down on the job with that, because I don't think we've really had a resurfacing meeting, especially for the new ones, on the council. And I suggest, if you haven't already, certainly with our new guy, a drive-through is a great thing. And our districts are so large, you may want to do more than one.
Yeah.
So, anyway, that's all I had. Any department heads or any staff have anything to add before we go to executive session? All right, do I hear a motion to go into executive
So
session?
moved.
Second.
Motion second, Mr. Holmes.
Yes, sir. As your city attorney and an attorney licensed to practice law in the state of Alabama, I can certify that the topics for executive session are to discuss with their attorney the legal ramifications of and legal options for pending litigation. I'm sorry, I'm reading the wrong one. Excuse me. To discuss security plans, procedures, assessments, measures, or systems, or the security or safety of persons, structures, facilities, or other infrastructure, the public disclosures of which could reasonably be expected to be detrimental to the public safety and welfare, and to discuss the consideration the governmental body is willing to offer or accept when considering the purchase, sale, exchange, or lease or market value of real property.
Okay, have a motion second, go into executive session. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, if you